Story 19. Girlfriend asks for an open relationship, so I destroy her. My 26M girlfriend Joe, 24F, and I have been together for about 3 years, and it's been a decent relationship. Recently, she hinted that we should marry and make it official. She always says it jokingly, but the undertone is there. Joe wasn't wife material because I suspected she'd been less than honorable in our relationship. There have been too many instances where she's gone off with friends for the evening and went radio silent with no phone calls, texts, or any communication until the next day. Then it's a big misunderstanding or lack of service on her phone. You name it, and she used it as an excuse. I want to say I didn't care, but she's my girlfriend, and I was invested in our relationship, so these suspicious episodes hurt. She acted sketchy again for a couple of weeks, then brought up this concept of an open relationship and asked what I thought of them. I laughed at her and told her open relationships are for people who are already cheating and need an excuse before they get caught. In shock, she objected and started trying to quote facts to me. I looked her in the eyes and asked her point blank, "So you're saying you want to try and open a relationship?" Without missing a beat, she said, "Well, I think it could help us figure out where we are headed in ours." I laughed in her face and asked, "Are you sure you want this?" She hesitated. I could see the little wheels in her head spinning, but she finally said, "Yes. Let's try it for a couple of weeks and see how it goes." I told her that was fine, got up, and went to the bedroom. Here's where I got my revenge. I should mention that Joe is a very jealous woman. We had a shared bank account for rent, utilities, and food. I used the attached savings account to park money when saving for something nice for both of us, like the current vacation we planned for the fall. I removed half of the checking and all the money from the savings and sent it to my personal account. I then called a buddy of mine to get some pointers on using certain dating apps to hook up with local girls. He walked me through what I needed and then hooked me up with another establishment he used. I had plenty of cash for my plan. You figure it out. I created an account on the app with the most people in my area and started connecting to girls there. I've never had problems finding women, and I can, without hesitancy, say that I'm a good-looking guy who's very active and in great shape. Back to my plan. I made some quick connections between the two options and started booking my dates. For the first night, I used my friend's contact to set up a date with a very attractive professional. I took a shower, dressed to impress, and headed out. Joe was downstairs on her phone and looked up as I was leaving. She asked where I was going and, without missing a beat, said, "On a date," and left. I know this shocked her because I could hear her raised voice trying to ask me, "Already?" I met with my date, and we had a quick but nice meal. I was new at this and didn't understand that most of these dates were just meet, smash, and leave. She laughed when I suggested we get some food first, but agreed. I felt like I should at least buy them food first. So I took this girl back to our place, walked through the door, and headed to the room. Joe was talking in the front room with one of her female friends. Both looked up at us when we came in, and I just said hi to Joe's friend Kara and headed upstairs. My date was a little taken aback, but I told her that one was my roommate and the other was a friend. We did the deed and were back downstairs an hour or so later. The girl I was with had followed me to my place in her car, and we kissed, made a promise to meet up again at some point, and she left. I walked back in, and Joe was red in the face and refused to look at me. Her friend Kara was sitting there with a stunned look on her face. I walked past both of them, entered the kitchen, pulled out a beer, and asked Joe's friend if she wanted one. She said sure, so I brought an extra for her, walked back upstairs to the game room, logged in, and started playing CS. I could hear Joe fuming at her friend and almost laughed out loud when her friend asked her who asked for the open relationship. Joe stormed up the stairs and confronted me by screaming at me about effing that girl in our bed the same day. I looked at her and said, "Sorry, I'll move into the other bedroom." This was Joe's apartment, and I moved in with her when we started getting serious. I turned away and started playing again. Joe took off that night, and I'm sure she met up with whatever guy was the source of the open relationship. She didn't come home until the next day. Unfortunately for Joe, I had my next date already at the apartment, and we were mid-act when she walked into our home. This girl was loud. About half an hour after Joe came home, I heard her slam the front door as she left again. I kept this up most of the week, ensuring I had dates coming over when Joe was home since I knew her schedule. On the fourth day, Joe's AP was at the house, and I'm sure she was going to try and give me a taste of my own medicine. But the girl I had hooked up with for that day was a stunning African-American girl that had dark black flawless skin and long legs. She was tall, thin, and sexy as hell. Joe's date was already there when we showed up at the apartment, and they were sitting in the kitchen cooking a romantic dinner for two. We walked in and said, "Hi." I grabbed a bottle of wine I had picked up from the rack and a few glasses. We went to the patio, sat down, and had a drink, chatting and laughing, having a great time. We went upstairs when Joe and her AP sat down to eat. Joe gave me a look of pure rage and hate. As we walked past her AP, he couldn't keep his eyes off my dates behind. She looked amazing in the little dress she was wearing. We spent the next couple of hours together, and I walked her out while Joe's AP was leaving. I introduced my date to them since AP couldn't keep his eyes off her. I could see the jealousy seething in Joe's face. Joe looked at me and just started crying. I asked her what was wrong, and she started trying to hit me, screaming at me that I ruined everything. I listened until she ran out of steam and asked her what I was supposed to do while she was cheating on me. She started to reply, then realized what I had said. She started trying to claim that it wasn't true and that she only wanted some time to realize our love. I laughed at her and told her, "No, you needed an excuse to cheat. You can have as many boyfriends as you want, now and forever." I turned around and walked up the stairs to my room. My phone was buzzing regularly to the point I had to turn it off to get some sleep. I wasn't in the mood to fight with Joe, but I was woken up in the middle of the night by Joe screaming and kicking my door, crying for me to open the door and talk to her. Joe had been crying so much that she looked like a different person. She kept demanding to know what I meant by my last statement to her earlier. I grabbed my bag and was about to push past her when I decided to vent. I had prepared for this since I knew this would eventually happen. I looked her in the eyes, told her I knew she hadn't been faithful to me, and lied that I had proof. She got this shocked look on her face and took a step back. I told her that this open relationship was so she could explore a real relationship with AP and have me as a fallback plan. I lied again to her and said I returned the engagement ring the day after she opened up our relationship. I informed her she's single now and the world stands before her. I told her to continue living her life without me. I pushed past her and left. When I told her I returned the ring, she reacted like I had slapped her. Yeah, it was a dick move, but I was angry and wanted to hurt her. I moved in with one of my friends who was looking for a roommate. I went back over when Joe wasn't around with some of my friends and grabbed all my stuff. I left a bottle of champagne on the kitchen table with a note that said, "I once loved you and would have given you the world. This is nobody's fault but yours. You failed me." I know this was petty, but it needed to be said. I got a new phone number and blocked Joe on everything because of her constant attempts to contact me. I found out later from my former date that her AP had contacted her after I had introduced them. I laughed at that, took a screen cap of the conversation, sent it to Joe, and then blocked her again. Joe didn't know for quite a while, but I hooked up with her friend Kara a few weeks after I moved out and ultimately ended up in a relationship with her. The drama when Joe found out was out of this world. If you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I only post new and unique stories. Please like and subscribe.